Hi, good Erev Shabbos. I'd like to share a brief thought. Chazal tell us that Yaakov Avinu and his treatment of Yosef is something that's held up for all of the ages as not an acceptable way in Chinuch Habanim. Yaakov singled Yosef out for praise, for a special gift of the Kseinis Pasim, and the Gemara in Shabbos tells us, Lo'olam al yeshana adam bein abanim. A person should not single out his children one from the rest of the children. It doesn't do well for the child. It doesn't do well for the rest of the children. Yet, there's something interesting. When Yaakov is passing away, we find that Yaakov Avinu singles out three of the Shvatim, Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, for extreme criticism. Reuven is challenged for his Pachas Kamayim. Shimon and Levi are challenged for their Midah of Kas. The rest of the brothers all get very elaborate brachas. Again, this is pretty much a repetition of the Shinoi of a Bein Abonim. I think that based on some words in the Kliyokar, it could be understood that the midah of pachzonis, the midah of swift reaction, is not always a bad midah. Not only that, we find that there's a Gemara in Nedarim. The Gemara says that Shimon HaTzadik says, "Miyomai le'achalti me'asham nazir tomei." He says, "I never partook from any of the offerings. There was an asham of a nazir who didn't actually finish matriculating his Naziris." Because he said these are people that generally regret what they did. They become tamei, and these are not people that are bringing karbonis with the proper intention, and I don't feel good eating it because I'm partaking of something that's almost like chulin ba'azara. He says, except for pamachas. One time, Bo Nazir min Adorim, a Nazir came from Dorim, and V'ra'isi, and I saw that he was Yefei Toyar and Toiv Mara, he looked good. V'kavtzeis of Sturis le'taltalim, he had very long hair. They were neatly locked. So he says, Amarti le, I said to him, B'ni, Mora isa lahashches sarecha. Why do you want to cut your hair? That means part of the Nazirus is that when the Nazirus is over, there's a haircut. Why do you want, Zuhana, it's such a beautiful hair, you have such a nice head of hair, why do you want to cut it? So he answers Reb Shimon, and now this is a fellow who stumbled and became Tameh accidentally, but Reb Shimon still feels very, very comfortable about this person. He says, because Roya ha'isi la'aba be'iri, I was a shepherd for my father, and I was in my village, and he says, I went to take the sheep to a mayim, he says, I bent over the mayim, v'nistakalti be'babu shali, I looked at my impression, and I saw how handsome I am. Upachaz alai yitzri, and my Yetzer Hara tried to overpower me. Again, the word pachas kamayim. It's pachas in mayim over here. Pachaz alai yitzri, ubikesh l'tardeni min ha'olam. He wanted to let my arrogance permeate through me and get rid of me from this world. Amartile, I said to him, Russia, b'mata misgoya, what are you arrogant over? It's not yours. This is a body. Eventually is going to be rima v'teleya. And I didn't stop there and I didn't settle until I jumped up and I said, Avoida, by the name of Hashem, by the Avoid in the Beis Hamikdash, Agalecha chol hashamayim, I'm going to cut this hair off of Shamayim. So this is a midah of, I would say, reactive kedusha, which Reb Shimon is so overwhelmed by and so impressed that he says, from you, he says, Amadati v'nashaktiv al roisha, I kissed him on his head, v'amarti yirbu kamoicha b'Yisrael. You're the type of guy that there should be more of in Klal Yisrael. This type of reaction, yes, acceptable. This type of attitude, so. And we find other places. There's a Gemara in Ksubis that says Marukva used to put 4 dinarim in the bottom of somebody's door. Never wanted him to know. One day the guy opened the door and Marukva and his wife ran to try to avoid being detected. Ultimately, they ran into an oven and almost killed themselves. The Gemara says Marukva's feet got burnt. His wife's didn't. The Gemara explains that he wanted to avoid bizayin for the guy. But again, this is a midah of pachzonis. It's a midah of speed. So we see that while sometimes speed is just a reaction and it has absolutely no value, but there are times when speed is exactly what's necessary. Where would we be without Nachshon ben Aminadav, who jumped at the opportunity and immediately went into the Yam Suf to create this splitting? Speed is sometimes the most valuable ingredient in a person's success. Norvos, it has to be tempered and it has to be with the background of understanding. Yaakov was giving Reuven the biggest gift. He was telling him on his deathbed, let me evaluate personality traits. You'll know what to do with them. Look into how to deal with speed. Look into how to make it the gift that could be the most essential gift for you. A good parent doesn't only look at the child and compliment them. A good parent evaluates their characteristics and shows them how they could use it. Shimon and Levi, a rischa deiraisa, a kas, a vengeance. You'll know what to do with it, but let me point out that this is who you are. Let me let you know what you're all about. So in essence, when Yaakov's lying on his deathbed, it's true that some had a message that was much more palatable and others less, but the gift is still the same gift. To each one, he was giving them something that would guide them and escort them through their lives in a way that would elevate them and make them better servants of the Rebbeinu Shalom. Good Shabbos. Thank you for listening.